Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Let's Play, a long delayed Let's Play of Castlevania Adventure. I am the Professor of Chugonomics, the Broccoli Gamer, Austin C. Howe. I am joined as always, or not as always, but as always for the Castlevania thing that we're doing, by John Thayer, who is not the Broccoli Gamer, but he will suffice as a guest.
Hi.
How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. I'm playing this game.
This is actually transferring much more cleanly than when we did it over Discord. Like, I can actually see all of the frames in this game, however many that there are.
All 10 of them.
Yeah, all 10 per second.
Yep. I think everyone should work as hard to show the people in their lives that they care about them as this game works to render more than 2 sprites on the screen at once.
Like, I don't even know what to make of this game's like inability to render things. It's pretty amazing. It's like it's how do I put it? It's if you think that
Charming?
you're down if you think that you're down with a lo-fi or low-tech game or whatever, it's like, okay, what is your bottom like how far can you go? And I think for a lot of people, Castlevania Adventure is below where they want to go.
This was a 1989 Game Boy game, so this was very early on.
Man, yeah,
when
no
people were
kidding.
just figuring out the tech. So, you know,
The
in
same
that
year as Castlevania 3 comes out on the NES, which is, I mean, on the NES, not that advanced a game.
Mm-hmm. And really a worse game when you think about it. This also, I think if you
But the
play
NES?
if you play like Mario Land and Final Fantasy Legend, you can see some of the slightly similar jank, especially both
Right.
89 games as well.
Right.
I think it's charming. I like this game a lot. How do you feel about it, Austin?
It's I mean, let's put it this way. A lot of times I play Castlevania when I want to play a classic video game. You know, and I think Castlevania, especially because of like its inability to transition to 3D and other stuff, has been very defined by being a classic video game franchise, a retro video game franchise, like in that kind of like almost Mega Man sort of space. The short version is that if you want to play a well-made video game that feels good and has like really cool set pieces and stuff, you're only going to be getting about half of that here. You know, there's some good music, but it's not quite Castlevania music. There's no sub-weapons, so like if you get like a visceral joy from using the sub-weapons in Castlevania, that's not here. You know, that is to some degree valid. Your
whip downgrades every time you got hit. People
right,
love
yeah,
and
it's like Zelda with the whip upgrades, where it's like, you know, like if you have full health, or you know, if you're in, basically as long as you don't get hit, you have like this cool weapon thing, you know.
Yep, every time you get
which
hit,
is actually
it
a
goes down.
rule that has a great tradition, including in Castlevania, and also is the establishing rule of Soul Reaver 1, one of my favorite video games, the best game of 1999 probably, even though FF8 came out that year. But yeah, no, I mean, I have a mixed opinion about Castlevania Adventure. I don't think it's the worst Castlevania game. I mean, to your dismay, I would probably rather play this than Simon's Quest, or, you know, I mean, I think there are a lot of people who would say that Simon's Quest is better than this, and I would disagree.
I mean, I played this game like 4 or 5 times. I finished it like 4 or 5 times now, and I finished Simon's Quest exactly once. So
You've only ever played that game once?
only
Okay, well, we
only
can
once
talk
all the way through.
We can talk about Simon's Quest when we get to Simon's Quest. But,
There you go.
But, you know, whatever. But, you know, yeah, no, it's just it's a pretty middling video game to me. You know, it's it's the other thing about it as well is that one, like, if we're talking about, okay, what's the appeal of Castlevania as opposed to like
Getting wrecked by that bat. There we go.
you know,
Hey, do you like these pixel jumps? They're
these are some
extremely precise. And if you
I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a bridge set piece where it's like a really rickety bridge or something, but like it's just not.
It's nothing. It doesn't look like anything to me. It's just platforms.
It's supposed to resemble one of those Castlevania set pieces where there's like columns and then there's platforms up at the top of the columns that you can see in the background layer. Which
Better
was
walk
a big
back.
Thing. Right? Yeah. No. I mean. Castlevania Adventure is kind of rough.
This is necessary training for later set pieces, though. They're going to make some harsh demands of you, platforming-wise. So I appreciate it in that sense. You get to it's a slow ramp up there. Something to be said for that.
You know what I will say? We did get to record this once, but we had some trouble, short version, and we had to do it again, which is what we're doing now. I'd say that Castlevania Adventure shows most of its cool surprises later on. I think this first stage is actually kind of non-indicative. I'd say that it's non-indicative of the level of creativity that is actually apparent in the rest of the game, and also non-indicative of the difficulty.
Well, that's fine, because you spend about 10 minutes in the first 2 stages, and then you spend about 4 hours in the second 2 stages. So
which is another classic Castlevania thing, sort of, where like the first 2 stages of Castlevania 1 out of 6 are relatively brief and not very difficult.
Yep.
And then as soon as you hit Wicked Child, it's like, oh god, Fleaman.
Oh no! Wait a minute. So yeah, I feel
you really like that third level. I'm not that into it. And then that fourth level. That fourth level is the final level of the game is actually pretty cool.
We'll get to those.
Right.
I think this
for now, level 2
this one has a cool atmosphere. It feels
also, I'm gonna try and be fair to Castlevania the Adventure. I have said before about how it doesn't really have like a clear scenario of like things happening in an order. Like there's no map, for example, so you don't like know where you're going from place to place. But okay, looking at it now, being fair, like there was mountains. You walked into a mountain and bridges, and now you're in like a cave thing. It's just not like that's the thing is that before there was like the established thing of what happens in a Castlevania game, which is something that you and I have both come to kind of deride. There was something like this where it's like, okay, now Simon's in a cave. He's, and there's like different kinds of enemies and there's like sort of weird different kinds of backgrounds because,
and they'll hit you while you're going very slowly down a rope.
Right, yeah, no, and like, this is, this would usually be like the swamp stage because the first stage would not usually be a mountain assault, and like mountainous areas and that kind of thing is not part of the MO. Of the later games. So there's like it definitely feels like a side game, and that combined with like the roughness of it kind of makes it easy to dismiss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think the action set pieces are cool. They make me think I want to make an action game.
For example, like getting that much out of like there's that deep pit there, and so there's a like you really need to nail that jump and not get fucked by the bats, and they can seriously like get you to spend a lot of time in that one area.
I love those. I love those guys that shoot the balls around.
Oh yeah,
love them.
The 50-50 down up, and they have like a very very predictable bounce pattern.
Yeah, it's random in the sense that they can go up or down, but it's random in a very binary way, so you have the capacity to react to it. Like
it's random like a pool ball.
Yeah, it's
literally a pool ball.
Yeah, I like that kind. I think of that. I call that like kinetic action game design, which is probably bullshit. But if you just have completely static patterns, there are lots of games like that, and they're really fun. Like I love R-Type, which is very memorize-y.
Another World.
Yeah, basically anything where anything where it's completely static like that is it makes it easy to it makes it more digestible. It makes it more accessible to a player.
You have to it's not solid ground. It's such bullshit.
There I go. But so if you just introduce randomness like haphazardly, then you can have scenarios that are total bullshit where your player can't react. I mean, maybe a little bit. Look at these bats fuckers here. If you just use randomness haphazardly, then you can't. Then you'll make
what
something.
What are the hitboxes on these bats?
God. Oh, sorry. I was. Dying
right.
Yeah,
you're actually force game overing.
Yeah, I did the first one live. I did this one pre-recorded because this game terrified me a little bit. I hadn't played it in like 3 years, and I was worried it was going to take me like 2 hours.
Whereas if you can't play Castlevania 1 off the back of your hand while recording and or streaming live, you're not a real gamer.
Obviously. And I am the realest most hardcore gamer.
Oh, totally.
What was I saying? So This game, it's mostly static. It's mostly static level layouts. Lovely. And...
Oh, yeah.
But with...
Sorry, that was supposed to sync up a little better with the hardcore gamer bullshit.
Okay. I missed the gag.
That was supposed to kind of be a bit, but the timing was off.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So static enemy layouts. So I mean, yeah, no. Well, the thing is, this game does have static enemy layouts, but because they can do either one or two things, you know, and you see, that's the thing is that it's like it's a very highly implemented kind of it's a very intentional kind of randomness as opposed to say like the RNG that makes like boss fights in Dark Souls such a run killer for speedruns, example, without being mean. You could just like basically like it'll just feel like sometimes Smo is over there doing 3 or 4 or 5 butt slams in a row, even though there's really no point.
I don't. Let's not talk about Dark Souls.
Sorry, that's a wide comparison, but it was the first thing that came to mind, say for example,
there I go.
There's one way that it's kind of. There's kind of like a halfway state there where there is Metal Gear kind of in the middle, insofar as like you have like the static enemy placements that also have a completely static set of reactions to like noticing you, and therefore if you play off those reactions correctly every single time, you can prevent yourself from being seen and also hey, cool set piece coming.
Oh, this is one of my favorite bits in the game. Love this. And more cool randomness. I think the balls don't come in at the same time, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. But this is just tense, because if you hit them, then they explode the land you're on, and they're tricky to jump over. It's just very cute. They revisit it in Belmont's Revenge. Like they do a lot of good ideas from this game.
Yeah, pretty much the rolling eye becomes the definitive element of the adventure sub-series, and then the rolling eye doesn't show up anywhere else. So it's, like the designers of other Castlevania games have very intentionally not canonized these Game Boy games.
Also,
I mean, it's not just Legends. Go ahead. What?
I was gonna say Legends. Legends was an example of a game that it's very easy because their weapons are very powerful and you have a lot of health, but the enemy layouts felt very randomized, and to me it felt mushy, where I didn't really feel like I could maneuver around the enemies reliably, and I would just soak up tank damage and make it through anyway. Whereas this, like, it's a lot harder.
Crisper.
Yeah, it feels more deliberate. It feels more carefully made.
This is significantly closer to the character of a Castlevania 1 on the NES than, say, Legends is. And also, the point of Legends' level design, I would say, is actually to try and make, like, a straightforward platformer out of the kind of level structures that you would see in, like, a symphony. Because it was actually post-symphony, and it was kind of the era. It was like, and there's some really creative level layouts in Legends that I really like. And
yeah,
I like
you played it after, played it recently, right?
I watched it.
Okay. Yeah,
the Game Boy is not my thing, but I will. You know what? I didn't play it because I've agreed to blind play it for this.
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, I came off of that game after playing Adventure and Belmont's Revenge, and then replaying them a couple times a piece. And I felt very sour on Legends, just like because it didn't feel deliberate, it didn't feel crisp like this does.
No, and I actually, the thing is, the simplicity of the set pieces here, like, hey, there's 3 bats and there's Deep Pit, even though it's not an instant death pit. I mean, the bats will kind of turn it into that, so, like, don't, be smart.
Be careful.
Is there anything up that rope, or is it just like a dead end?
That's a good question. I think I checked. I don't think there's anything. There's we just moved past like an earlier little maze set piece where there's 2 branching paths and one of them just loops you.
Oh yeah. Good lord, thank God that never comes back. I hate looping levels.
I like it when it's very contained in this one.
If it's like you can do like a bullshit like that if there's like a clearly binary solution where like it's like okay, I keep going left and nothing happens, okay, go right, that's if it's that clear, it's fine.
I mean, you haven't played my RPG yet, and it's all that bullshit.
But
it's
like
delicious.
when it happens in like basically the end game of Mario 1 becomes a real tedious chore.
Yeah,
because of all
I love
of the,
it.
like, you do.
Oh, absolutely. The mazes in Mario 1. Mwah. Delicious. Then they ruin them in All Stars.
What is the point of them?
They ruin them in All Stars by adding like a chime when you get the right answer. Fuck that. Ugh. Did you ask what the point of them
God
is?
forbid there be clarity or fun.
Oh, sorry. Super Mario Brothers isn't clear enough for you. You need to be more formally precise, Austin.
Yeah, it's almost like there are levels in Super Mario Brothers that suck, and people talk about 1-1 because that's about as far as they go.
All the level... I don't even know what you're talking about. Are you one of those, like, the water levels are bad people? Because that's wrong, too.
No, the water levels are fine, but I mean,
Okay.
I'd say the vast majority of people who actually sit down and try and play the entirety of Mario 1 probably give up about World 4, mostly because it gets really repetitive.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I like Mario Land
Mario 1 is overextended in a way that like Mega Man 1, Castlevania 1, Ninja Gaiden 1, none of them are anything like it.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's why I like Mario.
I'm just
Mario
mostly
more.
roasting Mario 1. I think there's too many straightforward levels that are too similar, and then there's a bunch of maze bullshit that's not established, doesn't make any sense, has no readability, and is really tiresome.
I like the maze bullshit just because it's more variety in that game, which, like you said, is very repetitive. And that's just a symptom of it. It was from an era
It's like
of
the
like
first
arcade
video
games. It was from an era of like arcade games where they have like 2 million repetitive levels because they don't expect people to beat them. It's not supposed...
Right. It's like the first attempt at any kind of level design that doesn't involve just like hacking the player to death with ridiculous enemy placements.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, no, I mean,
I like
yeah.
a lot of old arcade games, but if you look at it in the tradition in that arcade tradition, I think Mario 1 makes a lot more sense. And even then, World 8's still very good. Like, it still builds to a cool climax, I think, even if it's
I
murderously
think,
hard.
That's the unfortunate part, is that I actually think that like a lot of the World 8's like open platforming sections and stuff are actually mostly pretty damn strong. I
think it's good all the way through.
Though.
I like Mario 2 USA more because it's just more varied. It has more going on. Like, I want to experience a better variety of set pieces for that length. I think. And
I think Mario 1's actually like the only of the like original 2D. Like, I've never actually sat and played Super Mario World in 3 all the way through. I gave a good shot at 3. 3 is good, but there was like some just like very not like NES hard, but just like NES like third dimensional thinking. Like, basically there was some shit you have to do in that game just to beat it that's like speedrun-esque.
Oh, there I go.
I am not a big fan of carrying shells. I think that's the big issue.
I love 3. I think that's the best one. But Castlevania Adventure, we kind of reacted to the horror of this level our first time around, and now it's just like, oh yeah, we got this. This level is murderous.
To be honest, I'm honestly just kind of saving it because there was like, we watched it the first time and then I went on an extended rant, but I mean, like, there's like...
Oh, there we go.
That's your fault.
They're all my fault. Go ahead.
Oh man, the fucking, like, how little, like, you have to jump from the very top of the fucking rope to get to the other one. So
there's a fucking ROM hack that makes makes the Belmont walk faster, and it just
I think this is Simon.
No, I don't think so. It's because you have a son.
Yeah, Christopher is Simon's son.
Nah, I don't think this is Simon. We can look at it later.
Hold up, I gotta fucking whatever. Go ahead. It's Castlevania.
They just hack it to make him faster, and it ruins this whole level. Fuck that. But yeah, this is extremely.
I mean, you're talking about it like the level's good.
Oh, it's very good. It's better for it to be too hard than for it to be boring. Obviously, that's my opinion. As
a fan of Enter the Matrix, I disagree.
I spent 2 or 3 hours beating this my first time through. For some reason, I didn't use save states. I played this game like right after for some reason I started this game right after I heard my parents were getting divorced, and yes. I repeat that a lot because it's funny for me to have a game that I just defined by a period of me being very sad. And
I think that's what made Xenogears fascinating to me for a long time. Is if it's something else to think about.
I get you.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like I came at this game at a period of great vulnerability, and I just kind of let it devour me for 4 or 5 hours that it took to clear it. And this level in particular took like a good 2 or 3 hours of just continuously learning this 8 minute sounds right. Murder death march where you just have to. It's just extremely strict. Like all these jumps, they're not quite pixel perfect, but they're strict. And yeah,
those are pixel perfect. And if you jump that one too early, you're pretty much going to hit the ceiling.
Yep, which will fuck you up, and then you'll go down into the spikes. But at least now it's over. We finished the death march part at least. Oh wait. Nope. Don't get the candles. They're just there to trick you. I love that the enemies they're clever about the whip upgrades in this game in a way that none of the other ones are, because the enemies will react differently depending on what your whip is, instead of just taking more damage. Like that guy, right. Like those things if you have the upgraded whip, they just die in one hit, but if you have the leather whip, then they bounce around and fuck you up. Man. Alright, I'm doing pretty good. I think this was my first...
You can't even crouch that. That's such bullshit. There's like escaping that.
Yeah, I don't know how to deal with that.
I think the only way to deal with it is to have the full whip, which is lame.
1989.
Oh, this is crap. Oh man, I hate this.
It's just tension. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Don't jump too soon or you'll fall into the pit. Because you need a healthy vertical distance to be able to get across there. And then just here. Remember that thing from the beginning?
Because the ropes are static, like ropes.
Yeah, I mean it's not exciting if you kept. It's not interesting, but it fits the tension of the level. Oh, there I go. To me, God, that doesn't even look like it should be a hard.
Man, jump. I wonder how much of that we're gonna have to do again. Was there a checkpoint when they fucking changed the direction of that?
This is you
did game over here. So
this is
see how far you go back.
This is a 1989 game with infinite continues, and you ask if it has more checkpoints? Honestly,
I have standards.
The fucking
look, John. Okay, all right. You know what? It's time to have a talk. All right, sit down.
I'm sitting. There you go. I found the one up.
You know these arcade games you keep talking about?
Yeah.
They're literally designed to kill you as often as possible, so you have to spend as much money on them as possible to actually fucking beat them.
True.
The difficulty of early NES games is trying to take something that is brief and draw it out by making it difficult to get through, which is actually effective design, as we have seen, when the design is clear and works. You know, like you can have a difficult video game that plays by strict rules as long as you lay things out. We've played Castlevania. We discussed how clear that game is. It's, pretty much even more definitive than Mario 1 in that aspect. It's fucking, then it's literally, I mean, everybody's talked about it. It's pretty much internally documented that this was the idea. Pretty much everything in Castlevania 2 is built to extend its playtime. And then it's like when you have that sort of thing happening, it's just like it's like, okay, they're just gonna throw a bunch of shit at you, here in Castlevania Adventure, and it's like we're not even going to mitigate any of this by it's like, okay, this is such trial and error. There's like 5 different pieces of trial and error here in this one set piece alone. We're not going to mitigate it at all. No, I definitely expect more.
1989 though. 1989.
Yeah, you know what? The 80s sucked for good reason.
Okay, here's my arcade take. that's
arcade games suck. Okay, so honestly, that's my big takeaway here, and I say that as a big fan of a lot of arcade games, like light gun shooters, fucking Silent Scope, goddamn, like rhythm games. I mean, the vast majority of arcade genres are just garbage. They're such trash. Go ahead.
It's true that design is capitalistically encouraged to make it almost impossible to finish. Like, that's accurate. It's also the way that they're built is capitalistically encouraged to be immediately engrossing. They need to be pretty right away. They need to grab your attention visually and audio-wise right away. They need to be distinctive and stick out in a crowded arcade. And also, you need to understand the rules and be able to jump in right away. Mm-hmm. So, the nature of arcade games as a commercial entity both encourages a certain kind of ungenerous design, which I would not try to replicate today in my own work. I wouldn't make something like this level in Castlevania Adventure. Mm-hmm. But I do. They were made to be easily readable and fun, and immediately fun to play. And I think that's why there's a ton, as far as like knowing how to create action games, I think there's almost nothing better you can study than arcade games and games inspired by arcade games.
Games inspired by arcade games, I'll give you.
Yeah, and that if games inspired by arcade games are worthwhile, then that means there is something extremely worthwhile about arcade games. Like, my favorite shmups aren't arcade shmups; they're PC Dojin shmups like Toho or Kamui, that are directly inspired by arcade shmups, but then they keep the clean language, they keep the brevity, they keep the variety, and then they just make them a little bit kinder. And that's all I want out of action games, basically. I like everything about it except, just make it a little bit kinder. And even then, like, my dumb lizard brain, like, I 1cc'd Gradius. That was my first and only arcade 1cc so far, and it was very fun to just learn this very unforgiving game in the same way that, like, speedrunning is fun. Like, when I get deep into action games, I like doing ridiculous challenges that aren't reasonable to expect as far as, like, a first-time player, and arcade games are just like, well, that is the way you beat it, is that you have to do it in this ridiculous way, or just spend a bunch of money. And of course that's boring. If you have infinite credits, then it's no fun to just credit feed your way through a shmup and MAME, in my experience. So that's my big defense of arcade action design, I think.
I think the big thing that arcade games really had going for them over console games in the period where both of them coexisted, and I would say that both of them basically coexisted right up until about basically the Dreamcast. That's basically where your console hardware and your arcade hardware are more or less equivalent in terms of like what can be technically achieved on them. The thing that you have is basically arcade games have an aesthetic preference over console games. I mean, like we'll eventually play Haunted Castle, and when you compare Haunted Castle to Castlevania, or especially Castlevania Adventure, fucking blows this shit away. Like, I mean, that is like
it's a very pretty game.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Say what?
It's a very pretty game.
Yeah, but I mean, like, actually playing it's fucking miserable. It's like every time I watch a long play of it, I'm like, this looks cool, but like everybody who's ever written about it is like, this is a fucking miserable chore.
I was playing it after playing this game. It's very hard. I found the easier version of it, at least. Like, they had two versions of it. One of them, like,
there's an easy type out there?
Yeah, there's multiple versions.
Right.
And then, here we're up to level 4, by the way. This is the last level.
Right. Here in level 4, we actually have like some classic, like, cool Castlevania shit going on. Like, these are actually random, you've said, which honestly isn't that bad, but it's really cool that, like, they, animating statues.
Yeah, this would be boring if it was This would be boring if it was static, but they're random is like perfect because you have plenty of space to react to all of them.
They're so weak. It doesn't matter that they're random.
Yeah.
You know? But it
feels good to hit them.
That's the thing, is like, okay, random's fine. What's bad is like random and lethal. You know, it's like everything can be, like every bad idea can be like mitigated. I don't want to say mitigated even. Like, you can actually make a bad idea a good idea. You know? Mm-hmm. It's just like, okay, it's a very bad idea to just have an RNG where a boss is every once in a while going to whip out, a 5-frame attack that guarantees 100% of your health. Like, that's just a bad idea,
I mean, like, the thing that made me think the most about this was when I tried to beat some of the climactic levels of Mega Man X1 without any upgrades or weapons or taking damage. And I spent like 16 hours on... This was when I was in high school. And I spent like 16 hours trying to do that on...
We should mention this set piece.
This is dumb. If the ball goes
up, you're guaranteed to get hit.
If the ball goes up, you're guaranteed to get hit. So I just go back and forth.
That one was a mistake. Maybe they should have put the enemy more to the right or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a clumsy moment.
Yeah. There's also a like straight up reuse set piece in this, which is very unusual in a Castlevania game, to just have the exact same set piece twice. And it's the funnier thing about it is that it's a Mega Man set piece. We haven't been talking much about it. We talked a lot about it during the first one, but the un-Castlevania-ness of this, in terms of not having like the canonical features, the canonical story, so to speak, is also that it has a bunch of level layouts that are significantly more Mega Man than they are Castlevania because of the lack of stairs and the inclusion of ropes in their place, making the levels be about stacks of like, stacks of rows. I don't know how best to communicate that. But
pushing
basically,
a lot of sprites in the screen. It is chugging.
Right.
It is pained. It's like,
so it has to rely more on like, okay, we're going to split up the screen into like 2 halves, and in each of those halves, that scroll, there's going to be one monster for you to deal with. Just like going to try and contain as much of this as possible.
Yeah, and then Belmont's Revenge leans into the Mega Man-ness in even more like overt ways. But that's what I meant selecting. Was that I spent a bunch of time in Mega Man X1 basically trying to engage with it on the most ludicrous terms possible, and you can figure out like what is just random bullshit. Like you can't dodge Sting Chameleon's spike ceiling. Like that's random bullshit. But like Vile, that boss fight, every single move he can do is completely random. He like chooses from a select pool of moves, but you can strategize in such a way that you can react to whatever move he could do. And that's amazing action design to me, is when you have to consider a possibility space, and if you take enough time with it, then you can do it perfectly. Then you can do it without getting hit, without taking damage, without relying on any kindnesses.
That's what made fighting games interesting. That's what made like the very few good fighting games, and that is my phraseology that I'm going to use and stick with. Is the very few good fighting games have actually basically they have a lot of interesting situations where if you decide to do something, that will counteract 2 out of 3 of your opponent's options, but lose to 1. Literal rock paper scissors, and so it's basically your decision, and granted that stuff is affected by like the wideness and generosity of hitboxes and hurtboxes and things like that. This is a good screen, just in terms of the pure simplicity of it.
Yeah, and it escalated because you had very little time to react. You had to jump off and then duck under it and then immediately jump.
This is when this gets funny. This is hilarious.
This is so good.
I know, this is awesome. I think this is just really funny.
There we go. Alright, I really want this whip upgrade, so I'm gonna wait. Oh, I should mention that I did edit out, 40 minutes.
3 game overs or something?
3 or 4 game overs. I'm putting them at the end in fast forward so you can see all my pain.
Right. And that's in this level or the last level?
This is the last level.
No, I didn't
edit out. I did not edit out anything in the 3rd level. I did that in 2 tries.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like you said about fighting games, like that's just sort of the purest that's some of the purest action design out there, is when you're making a game a sport between 2 people.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that actually making single player. See, that's the thing, is that is two good video game players can take a middling to good fighting game and make interesting possibility spaces out of it. Mm-hmm. It's significantly harder to design interesting possibility spaces in a single player game, where you need to have some degree of static, things happening, because you can't just truly randomize the actions of the opposing units like the way a player would, because it just feels stupid. Because in fighting games you can do things like, I'm only going to do jump CD because it's his best button, whereas clearly the thing that Mr. Karate is supposed to be analogous for is not, that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's my issue with fighting games, is that I have trouble grasping onto them because they don't care as much about, create like a story arc, basically. Like this has
No. The fighting, like that's the thing. No, fighting games are fucking dumb. I really gave up on them. The thing is that Castlevania has everything that I found interesting in fighting games, and it's also I don't have to deal with fighting game people. So
look at this. All right, I'm about to beat the game, so let's have.
This is a very cool ending boss. I especially like the it's at the bottom. It's this is it's as opposed to being at the top, it's at the bottom. And you're in a pit of spikes.
Yeah, it's actually better than Belmont's Revenge's final boss. Also, it has two different boss themes, and the final boss theme is awesome. You can't hear it, but it's so fucking good. Holy shit!
I actually have you recorded Belmont's Revenge yet?
Nope.
Maybe I should do that one too.
It's a good time. If you feel like recording that, go for it. Tell me if you want to. Also, the ending theme to this one is beautiful. Both this game and Super Mario Land just have, extremely beautiful ending themes that just completely bring the experience home for me.
Yeah, the other thing is the shape of the castle here is
unusual.
It's yeah. This is very much in that, late NES era where things are becoming sci-fi. You're getting inspired by, some of the more abstract anime of the era by, Angel's Egg. There's just this is sort of, especially when you go back and try and fit it into the Castlevania that people know of. This one feels really weird, just all over.
This one feels less hammer inspired than the NES one. I remember my friend Azure
less
said
hammer and also less just straight up gothic, because all of the ones that don't lean into the hammer thing, like the Slaughterhouse kind of vibe, are leaning into the future forward 90s goth kind of pop goth thing,
Yeah, I had a friend call this one
really
German
hard
expressionist.
to define, but say what?
I had a friend call this one German expressionist, as opposed to the Hammer Castle NES games. I was like, that's
if
really
German means a lot of shit happening in caves, yeah.
I think also just the black and white.
Yeah, the lack of color.
The lack of color, the claustrophobic screen,
and also the slightly different character of the music.
Yeah.
It's not a huge difference in tone, but there is a slight difference.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. I fucking love this game. We did a big...
We got some extra footage, though, to go through here.
Yeah.
You getting fucked up by this final level.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit! Oh, no!
Dracula lives. He's gonna get your son. Watch out, something Belmont.
I'm pretty fucking... I'm looking this shit up right now.
Oh, my God. So, yeah, we talked more about action game design in this one than the actual game, I think, but I really like this game a lot just because it's a nice arc, a nice collection of set pieces. It's over quick, which is always a plus for me with action games. I like brevity. And I like big, dumb, memorized trial and error set pieces.
The player controls an ancestor of Simon Belmont named Christopher. I thought it was Simon going to save his son, Christopher.
There we go. I knew it wasn't Simon.
There we go. All right.
Now get your lore straight, Austin. Come on. All right, here's my stage 4 deleted scenes.
You got a friend in me.
Oh, there you go.
You got a friend in me.
I already did an audio track. Don't sing. All right, that's first game over.
With all this climbing, how the hell do you end up at the bottom for the fight with Dracula? This structure is so fucking weird. Like, okay, I still, you know what? Okay, in the first two stages, it's like, okay, I'm like maybe like doing like a mountain thing and then going through the caves. Like, where the fuck am I now?
Is that the second game over?
That still is a big thing. Like, every time you're playing a Castlevania game, all of the levels are identifiable as places. You know.
I mean, I think Dracula's keep is up.
That's really that's a benefit that technology gives you. A certain level of technology that the original Game Boy is not quite there for.
Yeah,
what were you saying?
I think Dracula's keep is still near the top of the castle. It has a different.
It has like a drop. Yeah.
Oh god, this is so devastating.
Yeah, it's like he has like a weird like chamber in the center of the keep. It's
yeah, kind of like Symphony's keep almost.
Yeah, but Symphony's keep is actually at like the bottom of the castle.
Symphony's keep is in the exact middle of the castle. I'm talking about the final boss keep in Symphony.
I know.
Alright. It's in the middle.
Yeah, but it's basically the basement.
It's in the exact middle! Alright, here it goes. Can I win? Look at the health bar at the bottom, please. Bottom right.
I'm aware.
Alright.
Oh, you know what? By far the funniest thing about Legends, by the way, is the fucking...
I'm being so careful here. I just need to hit him one more time! Game over!
Real shame there.
Alright, that's Castlevania Adventure.
That has been Castlevania Adventure. The funniest thing about Castlevania Legends is, I mean, there's something that just comes off about amateurish, even something in Belmont's Revenge that comes off as kind of amateurish. But, like, with Legends, there's a boss health bar that's on screen for the entire game that doesn't deplete until you fight Dracula.
I don't remember that.
It's really awesome, actually. Like it's a fuck up, but it's a really good fuck up because it's actually like, okay, here's your objective. You know, like,
destroy Ganon.
Yeah, just like honestly, that would be like a really good like artsy video game. It's like, it's like level 1, kill Kane, and then it just like kill Kane on the screen for like 30 hours. That's what Soul Reaver would be now. It would be like 30 hours of like, like sub-objective, get inside of Malachi's keep. Main objective, kill Kane.
I need to play those games. Alright.
You really do. I'm kind of surprised you haven't.
I've tried Blood Omen like 5 times and I refuse to play...
Okay, that game's crap.
I refuse to play Soul Reaver until I play Blood Omen. Finish it.
Watch a long play. It's not that good.
I don't watch long plays. I play games. Because I'm a real gamer. Real hardcore elite gamer.
Well, I play things that I, want to play, and then I watch stuff that I don't really want to play. Fair
enough. All right, I think we should close out.
That's literally the best way to have a relationship with video games at all. All right, let's get out of here.
Ciao, everybody.